My name is Saida Ali. I'm the Executive Director at the Coalition on Violence Against Women, COVAL. COVAL was founded in 1995 as a response to the silence on violence against women in Kenya. Violence during elections or elections have actually become the new site for violence against women. And so we're experiencing something that is a new phenomenon that is known as the gender-based election violence. It becomes an easy way for people to obstruct the participation of women in leadership or in political processes by intimidating them, by physically attacking them, or by sexually abusing them. In our situation in Kenya, we had sexual violence. Most of it was gang rapes. There was sexual violence by individuals. There was individual civilians. There was sexual violence perpetrated by gangs of youth that were associated with certain political parties or political leanings. And then we also had sexual violence perpetrated by security forces. And this, I mean, Kenyan security forces, people that had been deployed to go and maintain law and order, but in the process, they also raped women. And some of those were gang rapes as well. Then we had cases where some men suffered penile amputation. And this was situations where you would have one community or one ethnic group attack the men in a certain ethnic group as a way to impose their political superiority and in some ways indicate or rubbish the ethnic identity of that particular group of Kenyans. We will never know the actual numbers of sexual violence that happen. However, at least the numbers that have been reported are slightly over 3,000. In terms of sexual and gender-based violence, we do not know of any concrete action that has been taken through the local courts to ensure that there is prosecution. What we know is that there has not been prosecution because we've been told that the police have not investigated. So with no investigation, there cannot be a prosecution. And that is part of what we are trying to challenge here. Because then, from an accountability point of view, the government is accountable and has the obligation to its citizens to take action to protect, and where that protection has failed, to then take action to bring the perpetrators to book. It sends a very bad message in terms of how sexual and gender-based violence has been trivialized, especially when it's linked to political processes and conflict of any nature. That is troublesome because it is likely to have a direct impact on the numbers of women who get out to vote. It has a direct impact on the numbers of women who show support for other women, and it also has a direct impact on how women see that they are valued as citizens of this country. The other problem is that there are a number of women, and we've spoken to the victims and survivors, and they say if nothing has been done to assist us deal with what happens, what if this happens again? So there is a lot of fear in relation to that. But at the same time, when it comes to women that are standing up and saying, I'm going to run for this or that political office, they are very scared when it comes to the levels of intimidation that we see every day when they go out to ask for votes. Violence against women happens because of what we've been socialized to believe in and to accept as children, and we pass it on to other children and to our own children, and then it becomes a whole cycle of this behavior that is acceptable. And so you end up having a human race, if I may put it that way, that accepts violence as a way of being. In this part of the world, we see that because patriarchy then just serves to make it worse, then it becomes a normal way that even if violence against women is reported, or if somebody sees something happening to a woman, then it is translated or seen as a normal way of being, because then it is not questioned, not just by the citizens, but also by the leaders. And so as a country or as a nation, we have not become leaders or elected leaders who question violence against women, who question that certain kinds of negative masculinities and the celebration of militaristic kind of behavior is not the way to go. So unless we get to a point where we label violence against women as abnormal, unacceptable, and something that is extraordinary, then we will continue to see these kinds of behavior. It's important to have certain mechanisms in place to address sexual and gender-based election violence as it occurs. It's important that the health sector or the health workers are prepared. They know what to look out for when somebody comes. It's important that the police take it seriously. Right now, it's treated as a lesser crime. The police should know that when somebody reports, what they need to do, where they need to send that person, and how to hold the person reported to account, make sure that there is investigation, because at the end of it all, it is this investigation that will tie up to prosecution. I don't have any other country. This is my country, and just the hope that it could get better and we can all grow it is something that makes me and keeps me alive.